Welcome back. Welcome back. Last 2.5 hours with me. Extremely small topics to cover. Then mains question in the last 15 to 20 minutes. Can we start our discussion? We'll wait for 2-3 minutes and then we'll start. Very important session in the larger perspective because these small topics, some I picked up specifically for your preparation generally because, for example, sun temples will all come in the examination. I will go through the smaller topics first in the first half an hour and thereafter we'll go into intangible, tangible, which is going to take 10-15 minutes, maximum half an hour. That is. Very small topics are left now. Big topics done. The heaviest topics are done. Okay. Any tips on history optional? History optional, email me. I'll get you the details. What to do about it. I'm teaching history optional also. If you take the tablet course for history optional, paper 2 is with me. Paper 1 is a mix of 2 good teachers, but yes, paper 2 is fully with me. If you need basic guidance about it, you can always email me. Not an issue. Abhishek.mishra19@byju's.com. Okay, so first let's do the 2-3 simple, very straightforward basic topics. For example, I have for you the list of what we call as a sun temples in India because it's a topic which has now become something which can be asked in the examination. So let's just for once go through it. 1 second. Because they're out of sync with each other, I have to find them. Medieval, current affairs, mains questions. And I'm not sure if it is here or before science and tech. This is handicraft now. Okay. See, first, simple, straightforward, for which you don't need to open the language chapter, which is called classical languages in India. So in India, there are certain languages which have been given national language, what we call as status, which is all the language in Schedule 8. Then there is official language, which there are two. What are the two official languages of India? Two official languages of India. Hindi and English. Very good. So two official language. But out of all languages in India, there are 6 languages which have a specific status of classical. Now, firstly, if you have a classical language status, what are the benefits which you get as a language? You can have 2 annual international awards for scholars, a center for excellence for learning when it comes to classical languages, and the UGC also has the right to have at least one of these or all of them in a central university, and you can have a professor chair for it. Basically, the UGC can set up a classical language department in the universities, and you can have a international award. So it's not very groundbreaking, too much or too big a concept itself, but the languages which come in India as classical languages are as follows. So the basic way to learn it, Sarthak, refresh. The basic way to learn it is very straightforward. It is all South Indian languages plus Sanskrit plus Odia. The latest edition has been of Odia in 2014. Now, the million-dollar question is, how do we decide it is a classical language? And there are certain criteria. So to be declared by Ministry of Culture as a classical language, you need to have either one or at least one of these or multiple categories that matters on the language itself. First is it should have an early recorded history, which is over a period of 1500 to 2000 years. Hindi and most of the modern languages of India, for example, Bengali, for example, Marathi, all get rejected in this because their emergence is mostly during the early medieval period. Therefore, you don't have this criteria for most of the languages get out of the picture because of this. And most probably in the next 500 to 600 years, maybe these languages will become ready because of the time gap. But this is the first issue this is the first criteria which rejects most of the languages. Then you can have an ancient literary text or generation of speakers which have been adding to this literature or text, a very vague thing to basically have a corpus of literature. Now the third one is where most of the languages which may have an old history get rejected, which is it should be original and not borrowed from other speech community, which is that it should not come out of a language which was already there and is not a borrowed tradition. So dialects get rejected in this because dialects are borrowed from the original language itself. And last but not the least is there can be a discontinuity between or distinction between the old form and the new form. For example, Old Tamil and New Tamil. Old Tamil is the original form, New Tamil is very different from Old Tamil. So in that regard, these languages meet all of these criteria, which is that they are very old, ancient period coming out of the Old Tamil and Sanskrit language itself. And the scripts, Brahmi script and Old Tamil script is used. And for the purpose of the examination, all South Indian languages plus Sanskrit plus Odia. Can you remember this? 6 total. Nobody's asking you this. A standard prelims question can come. Which of the following languages have classical language status? Not very difficult, very straightforward, very simple. So the concept of classical languages is done. Now, let's talk about folk art. If you remember, I told you that I will do the painting folk art part separately. Everybody's with me. Small topics, we will not dwell on them too much. 1 hour, 1.5 hour discussion is not needed. Quick. Yes. So first was that we discussed the painting tradition. Now we are doing the folk art tradition. These are traditions which you should know generally. Again, here folk art and state is something which you should be able to answer generally. So Madhubani, the whole world knows about it. It is a very celebrated tradition, which is Madhubani painting coming from the Mithila region. As a GI tag also we discussed what do you mean by GI tag. And Jagdamba Devi was honored by the president for doing it. Originally, it was done on a wall with rice paste and with fingers. Now you have a lot of equipment to do it in that regard. So Madhubani, Bihar, standard, not very difficult. That way, UPSC will refrain from asking very standard, very obvious questions. It's also now done on cloth also, but it was originally done on walls at different occasions when it came to the Mithila tradition. Then comes Kalighat from Bengal, West Bengal. And Kalighat is a very interesting tradition which comes from the West Bengal tradition, Calcutta specifically, because it is called subaltern art, which means it is mostly done by migrant labor. And that is why it is considered important, because they paint their everyday form of existence. From domestic servants to domestic life to, you would have seen these people who roam around and clean the ear. You would have seen it for sure on railway stations, on bus stands. They are migrant labor who do this for their basic living in that regard. And that is why in 20th century colonial period, they became very important because they represented their culture in that sense. Thereafter, Kalamkari. Very, 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 very popular in Andhra Pradesh. You have what we call as subtypes in Tamil Nadu also, but the original, which is Srikalahasti and Machilipatnam Kalamkari, which is the most beautiful way of doing it on cloth and on surfaces, inspired by Hindu mythology. Pen is bamboo, vegetable dyes, but now it has also changed. Name Kalamkari itself is linked to the concept of kalam, which is used to write it. But Kalamkari now has also changed. It happens on saris, happens on different type of surfaces. But remember, Andhra Pradesh for Kalamkari, very standard, very straightforward. Then Thang Ta was Manipur's martial arts tradition. Thang Ka, if you remember, I made a distinction. Thang Ka is the painting tradition which comes out of the Vajrayanic Tibetan, or rather Vajrayanic monasteries of what we call as the whole Himalayan sector, from Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, from Himachal Pradesh to Ladakh. This whole sector, there is a tradition of painting which the Buddhist monks do, which is also about life of Buddha, belief of Buddha, and meditation. Don't have to learn this part, that is not your prerogative. But it is not one state, it is very specific to the monasteries which are related to Buddhism and specifically Vajrayanic. So in the examination, my basic urge is going to be Thang Ka and Thang Ta. Remember that they are different. Thang Ta is a martial arts. Thang Ta is a folk tradition of painting. Please note this and understand this clearly. Thereafter, Varli, which is again considered in a way an extension of prehistoric art, happens in the Gujarat-Maharashtra border, and it is the art which is in stick form. Very popular now, also pursued by everybody. Very easy to do also, so you can also develop this as a hobby if you want to. Then you have, when you have the Paikar or Patkar painting, which happens in the Jharkhand sector. Ma Mansa is the associated with Ma Mansa, the temple of Ma Mansa there. But he's very common vis-a-vis the Jharkhand sector. Remember Jharkhand and Patkar. Thereafter, Patachitra, Odisha. Beautiful tradition. Has a lot of emphasis on foliage, which is they make trees quite a lot. It is linked to the Jagannath Puri and the Jagannath Puri Vaishnava, what we call as tradition in Odisha itself. And an interesting thing is that they don't use pencil or charcoal. The background is decorated with a beautiful set of foliage. You can see here, lot of trees they will put in. And that is a very important feature of Patachitra, which comes out of Odisha. Thereafter, last two, Fad, which is Rajasthan, linked to the Pabuji tradition and the Dev Narayan tradition in the local deities which are there. And then you have last Manjusha or Angika, which again comes from the Bhagalpur, Bihar sector, as we see executed on jute boxes and jute and paper. So Angika, again very common in the sector. So Bihar we've seen two. Sarthak class has started to refresh. Pithora, Gujarat, Rajasthan. Saura type of Odisha, very, very important. And the Cherial scroll from Telangana of the Balagir community is important. What you can do is, you can just go through the slides again. I have, out of all the folk art, given you the most important. The last major GI tag based folk art was Cherial scroll, so you can remember it. So Cherial, Saura, Pithora, you have Fad, Manjusha, Patachitra, Patkar, Varli, Thanka, Kalamkari, Kalighat, and Madhubani. Not a very extensive list, but you don't have to worry and go around learning this in the first sense. You don't have to do it in the first sense. You can easily do it after you've covered the main syllabus in that regard. So I hope this is also clear. Yes? Yes, okay. Now, I'll show you a question. And then you will realize the importance of what I'm going to show you. See, UPSC has made it a point to ask now these questions. One second. Yes. With reference to ancient South India, Korkai, Pompuhar, and Mujiri or Muchiri are capital cities, ports, centers of iron and steel making, or signs of their Tirthankaras. Can you tell me what is the answer for this? I'm pushing to the poll to you. This was a very easy question answered by all the students who are associated with me or generally did my class. Very standard thing which we do in class and something which you should know. That is why I do a small section on this. These are topics which you would have left on your own. That is why I do it with you. Maybe you've done the previous question, this 2023 question. 61, 13, 9, 17. See, Muchiri, Muziris are very important port cities. And very important port cities. These are all the port cities related to the Sangam period. And that is why we always do this subsection. Which is to take a little bit of time and cover the ports. Standard thing which UPSC started to ask. They have now started to give you names of different, what we call as cities, and they ask you about it. So now I hope you understand. This is a subsection we do standard. I've been doing it for now 2.5, 3 years, and they asked a question this year. So this tells you the importance of smaller details in your preparation. So this year, anybody who had gone through this would have got it easily. So you have Lothal, which is a very old port of which we know Indus Valley civilization. We will discuss Lothal in the context of current affairs also, very important that way. Then you have Bargaza, which is the old name for the Broch sector of Gujarat. Broch was there in 2021, 2022 question of modern India also, but Bargaza, Broch is always important when it comes to the chin of Gujarat in that regard. Thereafter, Muchiri, this is the port which they asked this time, which is that Muchiri, Muziris are very close to each other, are very important ports of the Cheras. And in the Malabar coast, one of the oldest was in the news also quite a lot, and it's a very, very important question. Then Korkai, Tamil Nadu, Pandian port. So just have to go through them once and you will remember their names because they're very peculiar. Muziris, Korkai. Poduke is the old name of Arikamedu, which is near Pondicherry. Barbicon is the name of Karachi. Sonagora is the name of a sport city which is called Vari. Muziri and Muzirish, yes, same thing. These names are used interchangeably. In certain texts you have Mujiri, and you have Mujiris, different words. Same more or less. If you saw Muchiri or Muziris, same. Though they are a little bit 10-15 kilometers away from each other, but they're used as one sector itself, the Mujiri sector. Now, Mosripatnam, everybody knows, a very important discussion vis-a-vis how the British expanded there, the Dutch expanded there. And the most important port in the eastern sector, which is Tamralipti, which is the name for West Bengal's Tamlu port and known since the Mauryan dynasty. The Uttar Path and Dakshin Path used to stop at Tamralipti. Pallur, Odisha. Pallur till today is a very important port of Odisha, and the story of the Kalinga dynasty, the story of how Ashoka changed, comes out of the Pallur sector. It is a story which is recited in the Pallur sector, though it became very popular only in the 2nd century CE. So we have done ports, classical language, and folk art. Anybody has any issue in that? Straightforward, very small, straightforward topics. Come on. Okay. Anyone? These topics are small, that is why I'm not pushing in too much time into it also, because I want to discuss the intangible, tangible in more detail with you. Okay, can I move forward? Can I move forward? Yes. Okay. Okay. Now, famous universities of ancient India. Now, this you did not used to be a topic which used to be very important, but it seems that with Nalanda University's picture all throughout the G20 summit itself, snake motif means snake symbol throughout the G20 sector. I'll show you the picture also in the end. We believe that this has now become important. This has now become important that you know a little bit about it for sure. We again previously used to do it, but I think this is an insurance policy which we should have that way. Now, we know of Udantapuri. If you remember, we discussed the fact that Gopala was the one who developed Udantapuri as a very important center under the Pala dynasty. Bakhtiyar Khilji is the one who is associated with the destruction of Udantapuri also, of Vikramshila also, and Nalanda also. But Udantapuri was not as popular as the one which was established later by Dharampal, which is Vikramshila. So this is basically Nalanda comes first, then comes Udantapuri, then Vikramshila. And as I told you, Nalanda is Mahayanic Buddhism. Vikramshila is a very important center for Vajrayanic Buddhism in that regard. And that ways, these three together are considered the three pillars of the Buddhist circle or the Buddhist universities. But there are other universities also which you need to know, which is called the Jagdala and the Vallabhi. Jagdala is again a very important center for Vajrayanic Buddhism in Bengal, all Bengal. And Jagdala, Nalanda, Vikramshila with Udantapuri used to be very important. Jagdala was established by Rampal, who is again a Pala ruler. So you can see Pala, Pala, Pala. So you have Nalanda, Udantapuri, Vikramshila, and thereafter you have Jagdala. I'm giving you the basic chronology, so remember it in that context. All in Bengal, all in Bengal. Then comes Vallabhi. Vallabhi will be now in Gujarat. And interestingly, it is a center for Hinayanic Buddhist learning. And Yun Sang went through and visited it. The Maitrakas of Gujarat, if you remember, I taught you this in the post-Gupta, the discussion related to post-Gupta's early medieval, the Maitrakas, which I showed you in the Gujarat sector, contemporaries of Harshvardhan, are the ones who are associated with Vallabhi. So Vallabhi this is all Bengal and Bihar. While on the other hand, in Gujarat, Vallabhi, it is related to the Maitrakas. And most important feature, Hinayanic. This is Mahayanic, Vajrayanic. Now, Nalanda, we already know about. A very celebrated one. Kumar Gupta will establish it and will later be established by or destroyed by the governor of Bengal as appointed by Qutb Uddin Aibak, Bakhtiyar Khilji. It is, as I said, a major center of learning, and it was known to have housed close to 2,000-3,000 students with 100 to 200 teachers. The reason why Nalanda is so celebrated was because, as much as it was important for Buddhism, it also had subjects such as Vedas, grammar, philosophy, logic, and medicine taught there. So that way, it was generally very important in the larger perspective of the education institutions in India. One which is in the northwestern sector and also produced one of the most important personalities of Chanakya was associated with the Takshila sector in modern Pakistan today. But the Mauryan Kautilya was associated with, and we believe that the Arthashastra was written at Takshila. And Takshila was not known for Buddhist learning, but for other things which are quite modern in that regard. They used to teach law, medicine, military tactics, and that way it is important. From Panini to Prasannaji to Charaka to Chanakya, all were the teachers and students of this sector. So, if just to your basic idea, where Takshila is a district itself, you have Takshila in this sector, you have Vallabhi in this sector. Thereafter, you have Nalanda, Udantapuri, you have Vikramshila, and you have Jagdala in the eastern sector, this in the western sector. This is the basic story which you need to know. Anybody has any issue? Don't expect too much out of this area, but as a concept of Buddhist learning, very important. This is non-Buddhist. This is Vallabhi, is the story of what we call as Hinayanic. This is what we call as Mahayanic, and these two are Vajrayanic. Yes, Kashish, much more famous than these Harvard and Stanford, don't worry. Much more. Right? Move on. Can we do this small section? Takshila was not built by one person. It's a small institution which comes up through the local ruler. So there's no name actually associated with Takshila. That is why I did not give you that name. Takshila standard thing, there's no one person associated with it. Enough. Yeah? Okay. Now, in India, there are not one sun temples. There's not one sun temple in that regard. And because one of them again was in the news, used in the G20, which is the chakra or the chariot of the sun temple Konark was used quite a lot, built by an Eastern Ganga king, a local ruler of Odisha itself, Narasimha Deva I. Now, this becomes relevant for you to know that, see, Modhera temple is already or was already in the news because it's now a fully 100% solar village in that regard. This is a 100% solar village and was in the news. The UN General Secretary went and inaugurated that project. Sun Temple Konark is related to G20, and I will show you how the Sun Temple Konark chakra was shown at multiple places. However, that does not mean that there is only two sun temples. You need to be very clear that the Brahmamaya Dev temple in MP, the Suryar Kovil, this is very easy because it says Surya in itself. And here also it is Surya Narayan Swami temple in Andhra Pradesh. That is why UPSC can't ask you a question out of these two because the Surya word is already there in the name, thankfully. However, the Dakshinaka temple, the Matan temple in Kashmir was also in news recently. And by the time you give your prelims examination, I will come up with the art and culture current affairs. But I'm telling you these things because you should be conscious of it. This was in the news last time because after 30 years for the first time, a sun temple, what we call as a major puja was done in this temple, was destroyed during the Kashmir rule because of conflict between the communities. And today it stands as a destroyed temple in that regard, but was revived very recently. So you cannot use Surya Prahar because the name Surya is already there. So you need to have Navalakha, Dakshinaka, Martand. 3 names you need to remember, because it will help you. Modhera, everybody knows. Sun Temple, Konark, everybody knows. And if you need to remember the Brahma Maya. These temples do not spell out Surya. That is why they are a little bit difficult. UPSC can ask, consider the following temples. Which of the following are sun temples? Getting the importance of this. All of this is not given in any book. I am doing it out of my understanding of what can be asked in the examination, so that we have all the bases covered for the examination. Yes? Done. Come on. You get freedom from me very soon. 8 p.m. Freedom. Okay. This art and culture freak, you get some respite out of this. Okay. What we've already covered. Now we can cover another small subsection. We'll come back to this. Schools of foreign travelers also done. UNESCO we have to do. I'm looking for again small topic, which is literature is also done. We have to go through. It should be the beginning. Cultural institutions. Cultural institutions. Factual part, but give more number prelims. I don't get it. Festivals already covered. Festivals already covered. Now, let's talk about cultural institutions. Now, in Nitin Singhania, multiple cultural institutions are given, but the ones on which we need to, or the ones which we need to concentrate on, are actually the ones which I'm telling you generally in the class. These cultural institutions support certain things, and UPSC can play with these 3 academies: Sangeet Natak, the Sangeet Kala, or rather the Lalit Kala, Sangeet Natak, and the Sahitya Academy. They mostly play with this concept in that regard. So you have the Archaeological Survey of India, as the most important institution within the Ministry of Culture. It has 2 major mandates, which is exploration and preservation. And in that context, they do not get a lot of money. The problem with Archaeological Survey of India is the young generation don't care about Archaeological Survey of India. Second, nobody wants to be an archaeologist, and unlike what movies have shown recently, the archaeologist's life is not very glamorous or is based on finding caves and scrolls in foreign countries. And the biggest issue is that because archaeology is not recognized by UPSC as a subject, therefore people are not even more inclined to take it. Government of India budget for Archaeological Survey of India is very low, but if you will realize, all the monuments which you see, you would have seen guards sitting and guarding the monument. Archaeological Survey of India is the one who gives the money to those guards. So the preservation and the exploration of our past is all in the hands of ASI. And nowadays there has been another important thing, which is identification of what we call as stolen antiquities, which is that a lot of our artifacts have been taken outside by smugglers, and what they do is that they sell it in the black market. Very simply, the ASI role is to identify if the thing which is being sold in these auctions are real, and then inform it to the Government of India, specifically the MHA, which is going to then inform the MEA, and then they were going to revoke the 1970s Convention of UNESCO and the UN to then get that antiquity back. So the amount of responsibilities which the ASI has under the Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act, along with the Antiquities and Arts Treasure Act, unfortunately, they do not get enough recognition or money to do it. And that is the unfortunate truth about these monuments. As to reframe the monument, we'll see that. I know ISDA and ASI are working for it. We'll see that how that happens, the division. Let's see. Thereafter comes CCI. When I say CCI, the first thing which will actually come into your mind is not Crafts Council of India, but what? If I say CCI, what is the other important organization, which is CCI? Give me your understanding of current affairs. Not BCCI. Yes, Competition Commission of India. Competition Commission of India plays a very, very, very important role in a way to make sure that in India no monopolistic behavior is there. But another important CCI is the Crafts Council of India. It's a non-profit. It's not a governmental organization. That is why I'm doing it. It's an NGO. It's a non-for-profit organization. And Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, very important freedom fighter. She was a freedom fighter. She was very, very instrumental in setting up the CCI in 1936. And what the CCI does is it gives 2 things. It gives recognition and it gives platform. It gives recognition and it gives platform for our artisans. I can guarantee to you this is the first time you're actually hearing about CCI. But if you ever want to support our craftsmen, the people who truly make India India, you can always go and buy things from CCI, donate to the CCI, and generally they are very important that way. But unfortunately, most of India doesn't even know that the CCI tries to give recognition to our artisans to the World Craft Council, and it holds exhibitions. It has certain shops which are developed so that they can sell the artisanal work of our very, very, very what we call as important and in a way an integral part of Indian culture in that regard, who are the artisans and craftsmen of India in that sense. Thereafter comes the IGNCA, which is Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts, for a budding not an actor, but for a dancer, for a musician, for anybody who's part of the performative arts. This institution is very, very, very important because this was set up by Rajiv Gandhi in the memory of his mother Indira Gandhi. It's again not a governmental organization, has a trust which runs it. But the point is that IGNCA gives a lot of platform to new nascent talent. And to perform here, they have an annual festival. To perform here, it is a very prestigious thing. I'm discussing the organizations which you will take for governmental but aren't governmental. Now, everybody's with me to this point? It's not that they charge for high for artistic work. They give platform. So they will. It's not that you have to get 150 tickets or 200 tickets so that you can work. They give a platform for free to the people. Everybody's with me to this point? No issues? ASI, CCI? Yes. Okay. Now, the next set is governmental. Sahitya Academy, Sangeet Natak Academy, and Lalit Kala Academy. Sahitya Academy, Sahitya Academy, Lalit Kala Academy, and what we call as Sangeet Natak Academy. Now you have to make sure that you do not become confused in these three. What does Sahitya mean? What is Sahitya in English? What is Sahitya in English? Literature. This is literature. It supports the literary community in India, but it has a very interesting distinction. How many languages are recognized by the government of India as national language? How many languages? 22. But this recognized 24. The 22 languages which are there in the 8th schedule, English and Rajasthani, which are not in the 8th schedule. So these two languages, English and Rajasthani, you need to remember it is a Sahitya Academy set up after the independence, after we got become a republic, is for fostering, giving fellowships and awards to people who are in the linguistic field. But it is 22 plus 2. Remember, the 24 English and Rajasthani are part of the Sahitya Academy. This is the peculiarity. This is the uniqueness which you need to know. Then come the two very close, Sangeet Natak, Lalit Kala. Now, Sangeet Natak already has the name of it. This is performative art, which is dance, music, drama. On the other hand, Lalit Kala is visual art, which is paintings, sculpture. Remember this distinction and you will be able to answer any question from this area. Any question from this area can be understood and can be answered through this. So you have a Lalit Kala, which is the concept of autonomous body within the Ministry of Culture. It is about fine arts, visual arts, which is paintings and all. While Sangeet Natak Academy, on the other hand, is dance, drama and music of India itself. So understand this, Sahitya is literature, we already know that. Lalit Kala is visual, Sangeet Natak is performative. If you can understand this correctly, then any type of question will not push you against the wall in the examination. Done? Girls and institutions, MS practice is already done. Yes? Yes, okay, perfect. Now one more small topic, which is awards and honors. Then we go to intangible heritage. This we already covered. We'll talk about Shantiniketan and all, and we'll come to GI and then go to it. Okay. Can we discuss awards? Everybody's with me? No issues? Come on, more vocal. Yes, that's more like it. Okay. Now, let's talk about the awards. Now, when it comes to civilian awards, see, we are not talking about military awards, which is Paramveer Chakra and those awards which are given to military personnel. We are discussing civilian awards. This time UPSC asked a current affairs question out of sports award, Arjuna award and this and that. But now this is the only set which is basically left, which is civilian awards. In this we have two types of awards. One is called Bharat Ratna and the other is called the Vibhushans, Padma Vibhushan and Padma Shri and the Padmas as they're called and the Bharat Ratna. So we give three types of Vibhushans or Padmas. We have Padma, Vibhushan, Shri and Bhushan, and you have the Bharat Ratna. These are the four civilian awards which you and me can get if as citizens of India, civilian awards. But there are peculiarities to them. The most interesting feature is about Bharat Ratna. Bharat Ratna is basically Jewel of India, highest civilian award. This is the highest award you can ever get. And it used to be art, science, literature, public service. So you can become a Bharat Ratna if you are a very outstanding achievement in art, science, literature, public service, which is IAS, IPS officers also can get Bharat Ratna. But now it is in any field of human endeavor since 2011. Since 2011, it can be in any human endeavor. So it is not specific to art, science, literature. It can be scientific, anything. So it now has been widened. But the peculiarity of the Bharat Ratna are two things. First, that not more than 3 people can be given Bharat Ratna every year. So annually, you can give 1, 2, but maximum 3. Not more than 3 people can be given a Bharat Ratna. You can have 1 person with Bharat Ratna, you can have 2 people. Not 4, not 5, not more than 3. But the most interesting thing is that how does it interact with the Article 18(1), which is related to awards, honors and titles. And under it, it is believed that when it comes for legal purposes, whilst I can write, if I want to, I can write Dr. Abhishek Mishra because it's an academic title which I've got. I cannot write Bharat Ratna. I cannot write Bharat Ratna Abhishek Mishra or Bharat Ratna or Abhishek Mishra Bharat Ratna. Be it a prefix or a suffix, it cannot be used. It is under Article 18(1). It cannot be used as a prefix or suffix. A very important point. And this is something which should be known as the larger extension of the 18(1) provision itself. So Bharat Ratna, 2 basic peculiarities, not more than 3. There cannot be prefix or suffix. Anybody? People who are IFS officers can also get. Public service, you are civil servant can get Bharat Ratna. Why not? Okay, you need to be a citizen of India. That is the most important thing. Civilian. Now the Padma awards are interesting because they can be given multiple sections: sports, arts, social work, civil services, literature, education, public science, technology. Mostly the public servants, which is civil servants, are given Padmas, not Bharat. The Bharat is very, very rare to anybody that way. Now this is announced every year on Republic Day, but this is where the question comes out of. Exception. Only in judicial matters. No, Nitin, you and me can call each other Bharat Ratna, this, that. For what we call as Government of India purposes in legal documents, in your Aadhaar card, you cannot put it. It cannot be put as a title. Okay. Now, which are the years in which, or which are the times in which Padma awards were not announced? This is something which you need to know. It is 3 instances, but years are more than 3. So once in 1977 it was not announced. Then in 1980s it is not announced. And then between 1993 to 97 it was not announced. So very simply 4 years here and to 6 years it was not there. But 3 times. So in the examination, look for what it says. 3 times or 3 years. 3 years is incorrect because 93, 94, 95, 96, 97. 5 years here, 2 more. So 7 years it was not given. 7 years it was not given. On the other hand, years it was not given, but 3 times it was not there. Getting my point? These are the things which UPSC plays with. I'm already telling you the peculiarities. UPSC does not have a lot to play with, so you have to make sure that you understand this. 3 times, 7 years. So look for what is written in front. Don't jump to the conclusion. 5 years here, plus 1, plus 1. On the other hand, here 3 instances. 3 instances. Getting my point, everybody? Come on. These are the things which really matter. Small details which can put you off. You have to read closely so that you don't get confused in the examination. Okay. Now, there are 3 honors in this. First, you get Padma Shri, then you get Padma Bhushan, then you get Padma Vibhushan. Rarely given posthumously, which is after death. But last year itself, it was given to a person. He died, so therefore it was given posthumously. So now there's no precedence over it. It can be given after death. And you get or you go up this ladder every year. So you first do Padma Shri, then you will get Padma Vibhushan, then you get Padma Vibhushan. It's not that a person can automatically get Padma Vibhushan. You have to go up this rank in that regard. So Vibhushan, second highest, first highest is Bharat Ratna. Bhushan is the third highest, and I'll show you. It's a lotus leaf, and it says Desh Seva. Third highest, contributes the reputation of India in global scenario, and it is given by the Rashtrapati Bhavan in the Rashtrapati Bhavan in March. And Padma Shri is the lowest, but the fourth. So you have Bharat Ratna, Padma Vibhushan, Padma Bhushan, Padma Shri. This is the gradation which is there. And if you look at it, you will realize it. Here, Padma Bhushan, Vibhushan, Shri, all lotus with different number of petals. Done. Small straightforward questions. Haven't is the when we talk about the awards, already Khel, which is the sports have already come. They've already asked you about. They obviously won't ask you military awards, so they can only ask this. That is the most important. Yes, Himanshu, not in very rare case. You will get Shri, then you will get Bhushan, then you will get Vibhushan. That is the standard thing which happens. Yes, come on. Done. Anybody any issue in awards? I've told you the peculiarities, so it should not be a problem. It should not be a problem. Okay. Now let's come to then you can get then Bharat Ratna or can it be separate? You can get Shubham a Bharat Ratna also. But when you got Bharat Ratna, then why will you get Shri or Padmas? Padmas are more in number. Bharat Ratnas are less in number. So any combination you want to make it into a C-side question, that's a separate issue altogether. But if you already got Bharat Ratna, why will you give a person Padma? That would be disrespect to that person. Getting my point, Shubham? You get Shri and then you get Bharat Ratna. Very good. But if you got Bharat Ratna, why would you give that person Padma Shri Vibhushan? You're giving him gradationally lower honor. Yes? Get my point, Shubham? Okay. Now let's discuss something which UPSC students love. Follow also in the current affairs. I will add to the list also. Is GI tags. Let's get one question straightforward out of your mind, which is, do I need to learn GI tags? And the answer to that question is, best of luck, which is, there are 417 registered on the Government of India as of right now. 9 have been added recently. So if you really want to, if since 2022, 9 plus 9 have been added more, but if you really want to, then it is literally waste of time. The concept of GI is good enough to understand. Why is GI given? It is also good to understand. What is the concept related to the GI, how it is with intellectual property? That is also fine. But if you will go on learning GIs, then there's no end. No end. So what you do is that whatever was the latest current affairs with regards to GI, you remember it, but do not dare open the list. Getting my point? There's no point learning 500 different GIs from the states. Now, if we understand this, I would like to tell you what is GI, if I can, if you would allow me to. Can we do it? What is GI? Very good, very good, very good, very good, very good. Now, when we talk about GI, the most interesting aspect about GI generally is that how does it get aligned with the other larger, what we call as concepts. So there's something called TRIPS. You would have known, or you know it, trade-related intellectual property, intellectual property rights. The S is taken from here. Now, TRIPS, which is intellectual property rights. There are different types of intellectual property rights. For example, there is patent, there is copyright, there is trademark, and the other one is registered. Now, patents are basically given on scientific and industrial processes. It can be given on pharmaceutical compositions. It can be given on ideas and concepts. It can be given on designs. Patent is very hard to get, and there's a lifetime for a patent. Mostly in India, you get it for 10 years, then you can extend it for 10 years more. But patents are legally binding. If I have a patent and you are doing something, I can literally shut your company legally because you are breaking the patent. So this can be enforced in court. In a civil court, you can drag a person saying he is doing something which is not allowed or isn't under or is following a patent which I have. Copyright, which you have seen for sure in your life, this small c which is there, this is for literature. Mostly copywriting is for literature, which is intellectual property in the form of literature, books, pamphlets. Then you have companies which have a small r against them, which is registered, which is that companies and organizations can be registered with the Government of India. And then you cannot obviously use the name of that company because it is a registered company. This is also enforceable in court. And the most common which you've seen is this TM, trademark. And all of them are enforceable in court. Meaning you can shut down the next company. Trademark you've seen for sure. For example, you've seen the Nike logo like this, trademark. Then for example, our logo itself, this is the Byju's logo, which is trademarked. And you have multiple types of logos which are trademarked. From the Adidas one, and God, you would have seen this on the Indian jersey this time, the Adidas logo. All these are trademarks. We use it for purpose of selling. The point is you cannot breach any of these four. And if you will, there can be a penalty. You can be dragged to court. But another step sister of trademark is geographical indicator. And the point is geographical indicator is not a court enforceable concept. And whilst patent can be given to an individual, this can also be given to an individual. This can be given to, again, individuals or individual companies. GI cannot be given to individuals or specific companies. This is a very important concept you need to understand. You cannot give it to a specific company. It has to be given to a region. And that is what I will tell you. What is geographical indicator? Geographical indicator is related to trademarks, but it is a little bit different. It can be only enforced from the registrars of geographical indication. Cannot take a person to court because it is not given to a person itself. And it is not that stringently enforced also. Now, what is GI? Geographical indication or indicator. Now, what do this word mean? I'll give you the technical definition. The technical definition is that by virtue of being from a certain place, by virtue of being from a certain region, geography, a product can have a certain characteristic. And that characteristic which linked to its original geography can be recognized by the registrars of GI and can be used for recognition purposes and authenticity. I'll give you a very simple example. For example, there are two farmers, A and B. A is producing in Bihar, B is producing in MP. And A produces potatoes, B also produces potatoes. However, he produces potatoes which are big, brown, but are bitter. Whilst B, because of the soil condition, plus a certain type of fertilizer which they use, which is only available in Bihar, they also produce big, brown, but very sweet potatoes. Now, in the mandi, this goes for 1 kg 50 rupees. This also goes for 1 kg 50 rupees. And in the mandi, it will get mixed. So, the Bihar farmer who has used a certain type of fertilizer, should he get the same price as the MP farmer? Should he get the same price as the MP farmer? No, because he is putting in an investment, and that is because of the soil condition of Bihar itself, and it is producing a very unique type of potato. So what is GI? Under GI, what will happen is that this farmer, not this farmer, but the state, Bihar state, will go to the registrar of GI and say that from the, for example, this was from the Madhubani district, it will say that from the Madhubani district, we have certain potatoes which are produced, which are sweet in taste. And please give us recognition. Please give us recognition so that we can sell them separately. And in this context, what will happen? That the registrar is going to then issue a Madhubani potato as a GI. Now, tell me one thing. If A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all in Madhubani produce this Madhubani potato GI has gone to only A or to everyone? No, it is not gone to A. It has gone to the whole district itself. So any potato which will be produced from Madhubani and has the same characteristic is then going to be recognized as Madhubani potato. GIs are not given to individuals. So GI has the following characteristics. GI is linked to geography, which gives it a unique characteristic, and that is given to the region as a whole. And it is basically has two advantages: recognition and uniqueness in selling. So the first GI which was given in India was Darjeeling tea. So very simply, any producer in Darjeeling can sell the box saying GI Darjeeling tea. On the other hand, if there's a Karnataka producer who produces same tea, looks the same, can he put on the box Darjeeling tea? No. So this gives recognition, authenticity, and when exported, it also gives recognition. But what if the Karnataka producer does it? How does it then get into a conflict? Now you cannot take Karnataka state to court or the whole farmers of Karnataka to court. Rather, you will report it to the GI registrar, who will take action against the producers, and they will be asked to remove that tag. They'll be asked to remove that tag. Very simply. It's not that you will be having a penalty, you will go to jail. No. Recognition can be removed, and GI tax registrar is going to then go to the person and ask them to remove this tag. They cannot stop production. You cannot prosecute everyone. This is a very important point. If removed after then, we are Indians, we do it, that is a separate issue altogether. If we remove and still they do it, then what can you do? So very simply, let's be very honest. We put logos on things, Adidas, even though they're trademarked. So what if we violate it? That is something which you will find in flea markets in Sarojini Nagar for sure that you can't do anything about. Right? But this is the official procedure which is going to be there. Get my point, Abhinav and Vivek. So once GI is given, can a product lose it afterwards? It's permanent. Yeah, till it has that original characteristic. If Darjeeling tea now starts to taste like all other teas, then there's no point. If the mango, Alfonso mango, does not look like the Alfonso mango, then it cannot. So that's the point. You have to have that characteristic. You see, a geographical indicator means a particular item that has originated from a particular region only. The GI is an indication of the definite origin from the geographical territory. The use of geographical indication may act as a certification and protection that the product possesses a specific quality and is made according to traditional method or enjoys a certain reputation due to its geographical origin. It ensures that none other than those registered as authorized users are allowed to use that popular product name. So most commonly, geographical indications include the name of the place of origin of the goods. Muzaffarpur lychee, Manipuri chili, they have the name itself. Thereafter, once a GI is granted, no other producer can misuse the name in the market with similar products. It provides comfort to customers about authenticity, and it is the geographical indications goods Act 1999 which decides it. Clear? GI, a trademark on the other hand is a sign word phrase which is giving distinguishing concept to an entity. Geographical indication tells the customer that the product is from a certain place and that gives it a certain characteristic. Trademark gives an entity the right to prevent others from using the trademark. On the other hand, GI may be used by all producers of this region, and therefore that is a very important concept in that regard. Now, very simple point. Last thing I will ask you is that if or can other countries take GI in India? Can other countries take GI in India? Yes, they can. Yes, they can. You see this list: Czech Republic, Italy. The simple point is India can take GI in another country, and other country can take GI in India. Which is that what it means is that us manufactured what is called Krimmel can only be sold by a Czech Republic manufacturer. For example, the Chinati, whatever you want to call it, this type of product can only be sold by an Italian company. So India can go to another country and get a GI tag, and India has done that. For example, Alfonso mangoes are GI tag to Indian multiple countries, and that is allowed. That is allowed. So GI tags can be given to other countries, and we can also get it in other countries. So GI tags, basic points, what are they? GI are given a geographical indication. They are part of the TRIPS larger understanding. They are given to not individuals but to the region, and you cannot go to court and then get that person prosecuted. It will just be authenticity, recognition, and uniqueness in selling. Clear, everyone? This brand name and trademark are the same thing. Brand name could be registered, and trademark could be different. Nike could be registered, trademark could be the tick. Done. Can I give you a small break here, and we then come back and finish our syllabus? Yes. Smaller topics done. Now UNESCO tangible, intangible, current affairs, small topics, very small topics. We'll come back and discuss UNESCO tangible, intangible. Right. So I'll give you a break here. 5 minutes enough. So we'll come back at what 6:55, and then we'll take the story forward. 5 minutes. If I give you here, then I will explain what's the point. Okay. See you at 6:55. Okay, welcome back. Now, we have to discuss two topics UNESCO. But before that, let's discuss regional schools because UNESCO is linked to the this is linked to the current affairs aspect. So we'll discuss current affairs in this together. Let's talk about regional schools first. You see, this is the current affairs part. This is the main question. So don't worry, everything is here. And I have GA20 also. I just to show you, this is the Sun Temple Konark Chakra which I was talking about. And this is Nalanda. Two very iconic pictures, two very important current affairs for you now. Right? You understand the importance of why I've done Sun Temples and the Udantapuri and all. Because G20 very important backgrounds. Okay. So Indo-Greek countries, it's somewhere here in between. Handicraft, science, technology. Okay, this is the first slide. Whilst I'm doing this, please come back because a lot. I know module 9. The problem is that they're mixed up. All are mixed up together. Nah? They're not module wise. I have total number of slides here. I'm trying to find it. That is why. 1 second. I'm sorry about this. I have 416 slides to cover. Yeah, that's all right. 416 slides. So they're mixed up. Now, when we were, which PPT we have followed this batch of people? All PPTs are the same, Shanavas. Current affairs is a little bit up down. All PPTs are the same. You come to any of my batches, the only current affairs part changes. Everything else remains the same. Okay. Now when we were discussing art and architecture, I kept this part for the end because it breaks the flow itself. So you need to know certain regional schools. For example, in South India, other than the Vijayanagara school, you need to know the Nayak school. And that is because of one temple, which is the Meenakshi temple in Madurai. This is Madurai. This temple is based on what is called Nayak design or Nayak architecture. And it has two very important features. One is called the Parakrams or the very big corridors which are there, which I will show you what it is. And the Gopurams which were built were the largest. The largest Gopurams and the largest in India is in Meenakshi temple. So unlike making the Viman very, very high, they made their Gopuram very high. The largest Gopuram in India is with the Meenakshi temple. But as you can see, the pathway which you see here, which goes like this is called Parakrams. The whole temple in its design has these big corridors and its Gopuram is the biggest. So in the examination, when they give you the two basic concepts, presence of Parakrams and what we call as largest Gopurams in the world, the tallest Gopuram in the world is in Meenakshi temple. It is Nayak school. It is not Vijayanagara school. It is Nayak school. And Madurai temple, Meenakshi temple is a very good example of that. So when we talk about Nayaks, Parakrams, which are ambulatory paths or what we call as big portico paths, people can walk. If you've ever been to this temple, there is a long corridor which is there. And over and above that, the largest Gopurams. Thereafter, there are also other provincial styles of architecture. For example, Bengal. Nitin, tell me a question. Yes, it's for parikramas. Very good. Parakrams for parikramas. Very good. Now, in Bengal, we already know that the sloping Bengali roof was there. The Pala and the Sena architecture came through. But during the Mughal and post-Mughal period, at the Kadam Rasul Mosque and the Adina Mosque, you will see that the Mughal influences started to come through. So can anybody tell me what this is? Come on, quickly. What is this? This is an very good. This is an cave. So you see, Mughal cave have reached till Bengal. Now, the red color brick obviously is Pala architecture. The point is that the sloping roof of Bengal is still there, as it says. The sloping roof of Bengal is still there. But the Mughal elements come through. This is the Kadam Rasul Mosque. But what is more interesting is the Adina Mosque. If you look at the Adina Mosque, and you will see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They've reduced it to either, if you want to call it as 7 or 8. 8 cusp arch is there. And lotus. Over and above that, you can see, if I pan out in the Adina Mosque even more, you have the Rajasthani balcony. Along with that, you have the standard inverted lotus, big lotus designs here, and what we call as foliated arches. So when we talk about Bengal was now getting affected by the Rajasthani Gujarati designs of Mughal architecture. So these two represent a certain way in which we see Mughal architecture affecting Bengal architecture very beautifully. Now, if we go to Malwa, the Malwa sector, you have the Malwa school of architecture, which is represented in 2 to 3 very important buildings, which is the Rani Roopmati and the Jahaz Mahal and the Ashrafi Mahal. But the Jahaz Mahal and Rani Roopmati pavilion very important. The Malwa school of architecture at Mandu and Dhar are considered the first environmentally conscious buildings. How that basically you have these very interesting, very high ceilings, very big windows, very well ventilated rooms, water storage along with these buildings. We also see certain elements from the Tughlaq architecture. You see Bata, you see Chhatri, you see lotus. But the Rani Roopmati pavilion, what is the best or the most interesting design is it is quite spacious and very well ventilated. So the Malwa designs are very beautifully environmentally conscious, that you don't get any form of artificial cooling. If you look at the Jahaz Mahal, again you see high buildings, very high ceilings, made in such a way that air can run through all of these pavilions itself. And the Akbar Chhatris, that is already there. The point of the matter is the most interesting feature about Malwa architecture is the fact that they are environmentally conscious. You can use this information in your environment. You can use this information in your essay by saying that it is not that green buildings were made or are being made today. Green buildings have been made since the Mughal period, since the Malwa architecture has been there, because they're conscious of it. So artificial cooling was not needed. Over and above that, there is a certain type of ventilation. This is a very interesting thing which you will find in Malwa. So while Nayak is largest Gopuram, Parakrams, thereafter you have the ventilated Malwa school. Bengal is it's getting Mughal influences. Thereafter, we go to Jaunpur. Jaunpur is known for its, or what is called the Sarki rulers of the Sarki architecture. This is a big, very big. The minar is integrated into arches, and very big arches they make as a form of the Atala Mosque in Jaunpur itself. These buildings use very bold, forceful character, huge screens and huge arches. This is again coming out of how the Buland Darwaza was made. But what they've done is, rather than having the minars separate, you can see 1 and 2. These are 2 minars brought in, and then the arch is made in that sense. Artificial source of cooling in Mughal or ancient India would be spraying water, having evaporation-based cooling, or the concept of what we call as the handheld pankhas and all. That was all standard in that regard. Then the most magnificent Deccan expression of architecture comes from Bijapur. Bijapur, you have the Adil Shahi rulers making what is called the Gol Gumbaj, the mausoleum of Adil Shah himself in Bijapur. This is a very, very, very beautiful building. It has one of the biggest double domes in India. Over and above that, its minars are not separate to each other. They have been integrated into the building itself. Very big faceted arches are there. You can see it here, 1, 2, 3. And the dome size gives the building a different level of grandeur itself. So constructed number of mosque tombs, 3 arched facet, 1, 2, 3, and bulbous dome, very big domes. And he introduced what is called cornices. You see this. These are called cornices. Like something is coming out this way. Special feature, very high ceilings. Iron clamps are used to hold the ceiling itself. This bigger dome need a lot of weight management, and they richly carve their buildings in that regard. So in a way, the Gol Gumbaj is the regional schools coming together and culminating in this very beautiful design, which is the Bijapur School of Architecture. Now, what do you do with this information? See, very simply, cornices means this, which you are seeing, these cornices. See, in the examination, what you need to do is that you need to look for keywords. And if you are able to find these keywords, you will be able to answer the questions. You have to keep it simple and just look for these keywords. Largest, ventilated, the concept 3-faceted arch, bulbous, large domes. Are you getting my point? Why are we doing this? Because these keywords should be, it's a hollow space between, is there hollow space? There's always hollow space between double domes. Are we clear with regards to this? Can we go into now the UNESCO part of it, wherein I will bring in the current affairs part also? Yes? Okay. Now, there are 2 very important lists which are generated by the UNESCO. First is called the intangible heritage list. First, you need to understand the difference between tangible and intangible, what they actually mean. Tangible means something which you can touch. This is a tangible concept. I can touch this bottle. I can touch this thing. Intangible means something which is an idea or culture. So the words which are coming out of my mouth is intangible to you. Now, tangible is mostly given to monuments, sites. Intangible can be given to anything. A community culture, a community concept itself. So if you will look at the list, you will realize intangible heritage can be anything. So UNESCO intangible heritage, you do not learn this. But what I want to tell you is, this is the exact out of UNESCO's website itself. It says skill, knowledge, expression, representation, practice. Anything can be intangible heritage. And this list is published by the Intergovernmental Committee for Safeguarding Intangible Heritage of the UN. And very simply, it is to preserve culture. If not protected, it may not survive in India itself or in anywhere else. These forms of tangible, intangible heritages, they need recognition for conservation. Now, when we talk about India, we have a very small list, which is a good thing for UPSC aspirant. The first is Buddhist chanting of the Ladakh region. It is the Buddhist chanting of the Ladakh region. This is a certain way of Buddhist chanting which happens in monasteries. And in a way, it is very, very unique and very specific to Ladakh. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make you listen to it for 2-3 seconds. And if needed, I'll extend the class by 15 minutes because I can make you listen and not make you listen. So rather, why not make you listen to it itself? So if needed, I'll leave it at 8:15 if that's acceptable to everyone. This is something which I do and I would like to do. So I'll make you listen to Buddhist chanting and thereafter you can also understand it. Yes, acceptable? Okay, very good. 1 second. This is Buddhist chanting. So this is a very specific way of chanting, which is there in the monasteries of Ladakh, which has been recognized by the UNESCO. You get the point? There's a certain memory which has been developed for Buddhist chanting. It's a very specific thing. You would have heard it for sure somewhere, but you didn't know it was called Buddhist chanting in that regard, right? Now comes the next one, which is Kalbeli. Everybody, come on. Any issue? No. So then comes Kalbelia. Kalbeli is till today considered a very beautiful dance, recognized by the UNESCO in that regard. Kalbeli has an aspect in which the burden on women, which is pushed by the society, is actually represented. It is a social commentary in that regard. So when you see the women having these pots on their heads, it actually represents the metaphorical, what we call as burden on women which society puts on them. And the dance shows that how they still manage that life. So Kalbelia and its 2 very important instruments, Kanjri and Pungi, which I will make you listen to, have been recognized with the performance of the dance itself. And it is a very, very beautiful tradition which talks about mythology also, but is also related to social commentary. So let me make you listen to the concept of what is this Kalbeli music which has been recognized. 1 second. This is Pungi. This is Kalbeli music. So it has both. So you can hear the kanjari also and the pungi also. That dun 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 is kanjari and the other voice which you can see is the pungi. These two have been recognized along with the Kalbeli dance. So you would have for sure seen it. It's called the pungi. There's a dance tradition which is there in the eastern sector of India, which enacts Mahabharata and Ramayana, and was projected quite a lot when the G20 summit happened in the Jharkhand sector, which is a Chau dance. It is known for its very iconic masks, and it is a very, very difficult dance to do, which is that there is a certain element of what we call as mask and costume. You can see very elaborate costume and mask. Over and above that, there is dance, drama, music, everything related to it, and therefore it becomes a very beautiful form. And the whole eastern sector, be it the Mayurbhanj branch or be it the Jharkhand or West Bengal or Odisha, all three have been in that regard. Again, yes, they work, but they don't get proper money or recognition in that regard. So Chau, all of it, the Chaitra Parva festival which happens in this whole region, all the regional variations have been recognized. So very simply, Buddhist chanting, Kalbeli, Chau. Thereafter, two which you already know, which is Kudiyattam and Mudiyattu. If you remember, I showed you these or we discussed this in the theatre form. Mudiyattu is, as we know, the story of Darika being killed by the demon, the Darika being killed by Bhadrakali, and the Sanskritic tradition coming from Kerala, which is Kudiyattam. Here again, you just need to know the state, and that is more than enough. Buddhist chanting is Ladakh, Kalbeli is the Rajasthan sector, this is eastern sector, this is Kerala, and again, this is Kerala. This is Kerala. We know that. I hope Kudiyattam and Mudiyattu you remember. Do you remember these two? Yes, very good. Now, the Chau aspect is very clear with regards to the mask at Jharkhand, at Ranchi airport. It was represented quite well. Everywhere in Ranchi airport itself, there is a Chau mask on the ceiling itself. It is a very important iconic thing which comes out of it. Now, the next is the most holiest of things which happen in India, which is nothing but the Kumbh Mela. We know that the Kumbh Mela is a spectacle in itself. Across the world, it is known as for its ritualistic bathing. And with regards to Kumbh Mela specifically, it's now become the third, but it used to be the second edition in the past 2 years at Haridwar, Nasik, and Ujjain and Prayag. At these three places, it is believed that if you remember the Mohiniyattam story, when the Amrit was being taken from the sea to be given to the Devas, it is believed that the nectar, which is the Amrit, fell into the water of the Ganga at these places, which is Haridwar, Ujjain, Nasik, and Prayag. Not specifically to Ganga, but the rivers which are there in this sector, which are nothing but tributaries of Ganga in that sense. So it was given in the 12th session at South Korea. Very important tradition which comes out of the UP and MP sector, and till today is recognized as a spectacle across the world. It is a spectacle across the world. One of the biggest administrative challenges which a IS and IPS officer faces in these cadres is how to conduct the Kumbh Mela, where crore, not lakhs, crore of people come and take the sacred, what we call as dip in the rivers as a form of ritualistic bathing. Beautiful tradition, and it is difficult to manage. As an IS officer, as an administrator, future administrator, a very important tradition, but administrative challenge in that regard. Now, then we have Navroz. Navroz, if you remember, the simple point is, it's not for 1 or 2, but it is a challenge. Navroz, if you remember, was added by Akbar to his court. It is the Persian New Year. And very simply, it has a very unique way of representation of the Iranian culture, which happens in India. It's a very important Parsi Iranian culture in that regard. And therefore, in the Western sector, Navroz is celebrated in a lot of what we call as festive cheer. And Navroz in India was recognized by UNESCO. Then comes something which is becoming more and more obscure, unfortunately, in India, which is Ram Leela. Ram Leela used to be something which used to happen on every nook and corner of India. And now it has become much more smaller than what it was, except for what we call the Ramnagar, in which the whole city, Ramnagar, Vrindavan, Varanasi, and Satna, but Ramnagar, Ram Leela, in which the whole city itself is part of the Ram Leela concept, where the whole Ramayana is enacted. This is something which is really sad. We are the generations which used to watch the Ram Leela, but unfortunately, Ram Leela is becoming more and more obscure, and we tend to watch more OTT platforms or other representations on TV. But these enactments were a spectacle. A lot of employment used to be there. Communities used to come together. Even Hindu, Muslim, and other unities were there because actors used to transcend their religion. A very beautiful tradition coming out of India. Unfortunately, again, something which is becoming more and more obscure in the urban centers of India in that regard. So we have done Kumbh, Mudiyattu, Kudiyattam, Kalbeli, Ram Leela, and Chau, and Buddhist chanting. Anybody has any issue here? Anybody has any issue here? First 8, 4 more. That's it. No? Okay. Then you have Raman and Sankirtana. Raman is basically a festival which happens in a specific village, which is called the Salar Dugra festival or Dungra village of Uttarakhand. And it is a festival in which the whole town or village comes together to appease the Bhumiyal Devta. And this tradition was actually represented on the tableau of Uttarakhand recently. And very simply, no, there's no specific state for Ramlila, would be all of those were in UP. So this festival of Salar Dungra village is considered again very beautiful because all communities have a role. It's a community-based, village-based, what we call as Bhumiyal Devta Puja. But that puja has an interesting story behind it, and people tend to wear masks. Everybody enacts, everybody takes a part of it. It is part of their culture. This is our culture. Unfortunately, we don't even know about it. This is the beautiful India, what we know exists today. But these things are so obscure that we don't even have. This festival is not even covered by any channel or any news platform. But because Uttarakhand showed a tableau, it has now become important. UNESCO recognized it as a very unique thing because a whole village used to take part in it, which is unparalleled that way. Further, moving to Manipur. we have Sankirtana, which is again a very beautiful Vaishnavite tradition in which the women sing. There's no good documentary also. It is only the UNESCO documentary which exists. So very simply, women sing, men dance around a circle with the very iconic dhol, the Sankirtan dhol. It is in itself again a spectacle because the way it is enacted, the vigor with which it is enacted, it represents the Vaishnavite tradition in Manipur, and the Vaishnava people of Manipur represent and show their what we call as connection with the community. And I'll make you listen to the dhol which is there, the Sankirtan dhol, which is very iconic that way. I'll make you listen to that. Give me 1 second. So they're singing, and along with that, there is a dhol. Get my point? The very iconic. This is the dhol which you are hearing is this, and they're sitting with that small, the two brass, which is, I don't know the name for it, which is that you have the dhol, which is the iconic dhol, and along with that you have that cymbal, which is you use it to take out that song, that one. Very iconic. I would recommend that you watch a Sankirtan performance in itself, a spectacle in that way. Manjira, not manjira. Is it manjira that two cups which are together, which are hit together? Maybe manjira. If yes, manjira. Two brass cups which are yes, very manjira. Thank you for that. Prabhu, Himanshu, Sai, Anu, Himanshu. Okay. And they are known to do these acrobatic things whilst they actually beat the drum, and there are multiple performances within it. Okay. Now, Manipur. Now, this is it's indicated here. Please, you can see this also. Manipur. Now, the next set is one community which comes out of Punjab. They are called the Thatheras of Jandela Guru. Basically, Jandela Guru is a place in Punjab where they make very specific brass. And have you for sure seen this brass object which have these dimples on them? Have you seen this ever? They have their dimples, small dimples on the brass itself. This dimpling of brass is actually a very specific thing which comes from the Jandela Guru. So what they did, the UNESCO said that every skill is also a UNESCO World Heritage. So here it's about skill, that the copper craft, the utensil making, how they make it is also a UNESCO World Heritage. So yes, G20, all the brass utensils are out of this sector. The Jandela Guru copper craft was used in that regard. So again, India was on showcase and very important in that way. Now, yoga, we already know, was the last fourth major addition into the UNESCO Intangible Heritage. Before I go to Vedic chanting, the latest addition was Durga Puja, which happened last year. We are waiting for this year's what we call as nominations to get through, and whatever gets the status vis-a-vis intangible heritage. Tangible heritage we already have. So the Durga Puja festival, the 9 days which are very iconic in Calcutta, the Calcutta Durga Puja festival, where Calcutta, the whole community comes together, the dance, the community, the culture, the way, the craftsmanship, what all comes together has been recognized as the UNESCO Intangible Heritage as the last major addition here. But one very important addition, I told you that Vedas are only recited by and remembered by whom? The Brahmin community. And unfortunately today, this community is shrinking. And therefore, Vedic chanting, how the Brahmins tell their Shishyas the Vedas and they remember it, or the way Rig, Ved and Samved come together, have also been given UNESCO World Heritage tag. So if you want, I would like you to listen to Vedic chanting as the last thing with regards to UNESCO Intangible, then we'll move to tangible. Yes? Okay, perfect. Very good. I hope you've, see, I could have easily given you the list. I'm trying to give you this because this can help you create certain interest and make you remember more. So I'll give you 1 second. See.
Words repeated the right way round and then backwards. With Jatapata, every syllable is repeated 6 times. This
is a very technical thing which the Brahmin community of the Vedic chant Vedas do. It's a very interesting that way. Very interesting that way. Again, it has become obscure. So together, now we have 14, including Durga Puja. Anybody has any issue? Just have to remember UNESCO tangible, intangible, plus the state. Anyone? Any issue? Then let's go to tangible, where we have the discussion related to the current affairs. No? Okay. 1 second. Looking for it. It has to be here somewhere. Panchmat coins. Yes. Okay. There's no search option. I have to. Okay. Now we move to tangible. Now we move to tangible, which is the other opposite spectrum, where again, do not learn. A site can be given tangible heritage tag if it has outstanding universal value. If it has outstanding universal value, but it can fall in the following categories: masterpiece of creative genius, very open-ended. Then again, you have, for example, the concept of exhibition of interaction of human values. So it can be culture. Then it can be about cultural traditions and civilizations. But it's not just that it has to be about culture. It can be about human history, which can have geological significance. So it can be about interaction of culture, geology, sea use, land use, geography, and can also incorporate aspects related to artistic expression, architectural expression, tangible expressions of living traditions. So the point is, if Earth's geology and geological history is also represented, natural, as we call them, mixed sites, natural sites, or cultural sites. These are three main things. And this time what I've done, I've added, there was a very interesting article from in the Indian Express where they have given all the tangible heritages on one slide. You can use this for your revision. So there are totally 32 cultural sites in India. There are 7 sites which are natural because of geological history. And there's one site which is mixed site, which is known for both cultural and what we call as the aspect related to natural, both in that regard. 2 have been added, which I want to emphasize on. Now, some of you will ask me what to do with this list. See, if you look at the list, Chanakeshwar, this is the list. It goes back since 1983. Now, if you will realize, if I go through the list, you will realize one thing, that the states, the things which we learn in art and culture are actually intangible heritages. We've seen Ajanta, we've seen Ellora, we've seen Taj Mahal, we've seen Agra Fort, we've seen Sun Temple, Konark, we've seen Mahabalipuram, we've seen Goa, we've seen Khajuraho. If you see, we have actually gone through it. We have gone through Fatehpur Sikri, we've gone through Mampi sector, we've gone through Elephanta, we've gone through the Chola temples, we've gone through Sachi, we've gone through the whole pillars, which are very, very important. Humayun's tomb, Qutub Minar. In a way, the whole syllabus revolves around it. Chhatrapati Victoria Terminus, we saw this also, Victoria Terminus, or Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus, we saw Bhimbetka, we saw Red Fort, we saw the forts also, we saw Nalanda. And in that sense, the whole course revolves around it. But this time what I've done is that for your benefit, I don't need to go through. I've added this, which is in that same article, 2 to 3 lines of each of this is given. We don't need to go through it, but for your reference and your satisfaction, I've given you this. You can go through it. It will generally give you some interest. Don't have to learn it, but you can, right? You're getting my point. This is not to be taught, but just for your reference, because most probably you have not gone through this list and you don't have no idea about it. I want to concentrate on, it is always the latest edition which matters, because in UNESCO Tangible Heritage, it is the latest edition which will come in the examination. Last latest edition were 2, Dholavira and the Ramappa Temple. Before that, it was the Victoria Terminus and the Mumbai Assemblage, as it was called. The Kolaba Assemblage, the old Victoria Assemblage, which was there. Now, after this, the Ramappa Temple. Why is the Ramappa Temple so important? Why was it added? Can anybody tell me? Has been in the current affairs for now 1 year. Can anybody tell me why is it in the news? Or why was it in the news? Not black pillars. There's a very specific technology which this whole temple has. No star pattern. It's called sandbox technology. The base of this temple is made with what is called sandbox technology. In the sense that the architect, who's Ramappa, this is the only temple which is known for its architect. The pillars of the temple are pushed through in sand. And in 17th century, it is believed that there was a major earthquake which came in this sector. All buildings next to it were destroyed. But what does the sand do when there will be P wave, S wave, and surface waves? And if you have your pillars in sand, what will happen? The sand will absorb the vibrations. And that is why this is considered the first use of earthquake-resistant technology. But now they've not asked a question out of this. When we'll do target prelims, I will remind you of these things again. This time, let's do one thing. Let's talk about the new additions. The new additions this time are 2. What is called the sacred assemblage of the Hoysaleshwaras or the Hoysalas. I've already shown you this temple, but these 3 temples together have now been recognized as the new world heritage, which is Chennakeshwara temple, the Kesava temple, and the Hoysaleshwara temple. Now, what style is this? Can anybody tell me what style of architecture is this? What style of architecture? Very good. Vestara style. It is a mixture of both North and South Indian concept. You know that this is the Jagati. The zigzag pattern, which you see here, is something which it is known for. It is known for its basaltic black rock, and the Hoysaleshwara temple is known for the concept of that tabu by January, February. Don't worry. Right now, you just make it a part of your preparation. It is called the stellate plan. The stellate plan, and the stellate plan is a very important example of how the North and South are meeting. The carvings along with the decoration which comes out of Dravida temples truly makes these temples important. Now, just to know the basic details about them, Chennakeshwara temple was being made by King Vishnuvardhan of the Hoysala dynasty. And it has a stepped pond in it, which is called Vasudeva Tirtha, added by his successor Veerbala II. It is on the bank of Yakchi river in Belur. The Hoysaleshwara temple helibed is also Vishnuvardhan. It is known for its Jain, what we call as 3 Jain temples are also made along with this temple. And last but not least is the Kesava temple, which is not attributed to a king, but we have sculptures of Lord Vishnu, Ganesha, Lakshmi, and Saraswati, and it is on the Kaveri river. I have given you this. This is all information coming through. As we go throughout the year, we'll keep on adding. The second major addition to this is Shantiniketan. This is the more interesting one. As I told you in the beginning, if you remember, it was either Prabhu who asked me this question about Tagore. And this is the institution which actually was established by Tagore as an example of his teaching and understanding of teaching. So in West Bengal in 1901, Rabindranath Tagore established a resident school and center for arts. In a way, ancient traditions and our culture is part of the curriculum itself. It's called the World University. That is why it's called Shantiniketan. It has given this Vishwa Bharati tag in 1921. And it has 2 to 3 very important distinctions. Architectural orientation shows European design. Over and above that, it has ancient, medieval, and other folk traditions inbuilt into its teaching style. So Shantiniketan and Hoysaleshwara temple are the 2 new additions which have happened last week itself. As we go on in our preparation, and when we will meet for prelim-specific current affairs of art and culture, I'll give you even more detail. Right now, just add it to the list which you have, and intangible will also come over a period of time. Clear? This is how you prepare for art and culture. We are now moving away from the static, and we are going into the current affairs part. Make sense? Everybody's with me till this point? No issues? I'm not asking you to learn the whole list of tangible heritage. Intangible list of 14 you can. Here, it is too big a list to be remembered. So there's no point doing it. Only the latest things needs to be remembered. Perfect. Very good. Now, what we'll do now very simply is 2 things. We will go through certain current affairs which was there. Then I want to do 2 very small topics, handicrafts and science and technology, and then discuss mains questions with you. Can we do that? Can we do that? It may take 15-20 minutes more. Last, doesn't really matter. If you are up for it, we can just finish everything within the next 25-30 minutes. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for that. Okay. So let's talk about the current affairs part. Now, current affairs, which we take from last year itself, there are 2 to 3 things which you need to remember. First is the Central Vista redevelopment project. It is now coming into its own because now the new parliament has been inaugurated. It did not have the images of the new parliament, but the more we get to know about the parliament, we'll talk about the cultural aspects which are shown in this parliament. But what you just need to know is that there's a larger concept here. The concept is that the old Sansad Bhavan, which is now called the Constitutional House, will now be just next to the new Parliament House, which represents New India in that regard. But this is part of a much bigger project. The Central Vista, which was called the Rajpath, has now been fully revamped. And what we are waiting for, and then it will become very relevant for our preparation, is the new Central Secretariat. The Central Secretariat, which is already there, is actually too cluttery, it's too old, it does not have the capacity to take all 87 ministries of the government of India. So the old Central Secretariat will be destroyed, and a new Central Secretariat is coming up just next to the what we call as Parliament building itself. More than that, with that, what will happen? North Block and South Block will be made empty, and they will be converted into museums. The South Block will be India up to 1857, and the North Block is going to be India after 1857. Basically, division into 2 parts. This project is one of the pet projects of our Prime Minister and is actually developing at a very good pace in that regard. Right now, this is a little bit half-cooked because only 2 buildings have emerged, or 1 major building has emerged, which is the triangular new parliament we have. This is again something which we need to see what happens in the larger context, but be cognizant of it and keep an eye on the developments which are happening. Maybe in the next batch, or by the time we come to January, February, I'll give you more information because the cultural aspects of the pictures from the new parliament will come out. So I can't tell you more about this right now because I need access to these images. Once they're out, we'll talk about it. Thereafter, for the students who love their GI, these are the 9 new editions which have happened recently into the GI. You have the 5 editions from Kerala, and thereafter 1 from Maharashtra, 1 from Ladakh, 1 from Telangana, and 1 from Assam. Now, I don't know what you do with this information because by the time you will give the examination in 2024, there will be another list of 9-10. But I've given it to you as a part of your what we call as PPT, so that you can generally keep a tab of it. Thereafter, one important thing which came to us, as of right now, there are 432 GIs which are there, and very simply, the 5 states which have the most amount of GIs are Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, UP, Maharashtra, and Kerala. And Karnataka and Tamil Nadu have the highest, with Kerala 35, Uttar Pradesh 34, and Maharashtra 31. But what is equally important for you is 31 is foreign origin. This is what I asked you. Now again, you don't have to learn this data, but this is to give you a picture of what it actually is to take GI tags and what is GI tags and how important it is. So you can get foreign countries. 31 foreign items have been identified. Further, there was something else in the news. We'll discuss this next thing. Is that at Lothal, there is a Maritime Heritage National Museum which is coming through. So a National Maritime Heritage Complex is coming at Lothal. Lothal represents in itself the oldest dockyard in India. And again, there are multiple things that different types of shipbuilding, the evolution of shipbuilding will be shown here. But the point of the matter is that the lighthouse here is going to be the largest when it comes to anything installed on a museum. The one mixed site heritage site is Kanchenjunga, which is Kanchenjunga Peak, which is both cultural and natural. So Lothal we already know is a dockyard, and that is why this whole complex is going to again make sense. Again, something which is developing. Let us see what happens with regards to that. Then we have confirmation that the first use of gold Lakshmi coins were during the Kushana period. And very simply, from Oisho, which is Shiva, to Lakshmi coins, we have the moon deity Miro and Buddha. Kushanas represented all of them. Now, we also know that Lakshmi series coins were issued by the Vijayanagara state, when it comes to Lakshmi, Vishnu, Shiv, Parvati. But why I want to discuss this with you is 2 coins which were not issued by Indian rulers, but by the British and the Dutch and the French. The British used to issue Lord Balaji, what we call as, or Three Swami Pagoda. Pagoda is the coins of Vijayanagara, is the word which is coming through. In this, Lord Balaji with Sri Devi and Bhudevi were represented. And even the French and the Dutch in 1750 to 1774 used to issue Goddess Kali images, or Goddess Kali, what we call as series coins. These are European states who are issuing gold coins which represent Indian design. This was to mask their colonial intention. Thereafter, the last, when in G20, our Prime Minister went to Indonesia, he took a lot of stuff with him. And that, what the cultural aspects he took with him is very important. So here, there's a list of stuff which you need to know. So what was given to Joe Biden? Now this has not been asked in 2023, so still remains relevant. Joe Biden was given Kangra miniature painting, very beautiful tradition coming out of the Pahari painting tradition. And this is from Himachal Pradesh. This is what you need to know. Rishi Sunak was given Mata Di Pachedi, handmade Gujarat textile, which is again very beautiful tradition which comes out of Gujarat. So except for Himachal Pradesh, all of them are from Gujarat. Except for Kangra painting, all of them are from Gujarat. Be it Mata Di Pachedi, be it Pithora. Pithora is this Pithora painting which was given again Gujarat, which comes from this Chota Udaipur area in Gujarat. Then agate bowls were given to the French and German and Singapore heads of state. They are also from Gujarat. And last, the Italian queen or the Italian prime minister who was in swagger in India, she was given the Patan Patola. A very interesting. There's only one family in Gujarat which produces this, the Patan Patola scarf. Again, I've given it to you in the PPT. You can go through it again. But these are things which happened last year, still remain relevant. Last but not the least, the Telangana sector, two major what we call as cultural expressions. The Qutub Shahi stepwells in the Hyderabad fort or the Golconda fort in Hyderabad has been given recognition for conservation, and the second one is called the Domkanda fort. Again, something which was in the news previously. Now Let us see if it can come as a question in the examination. So these awards are for UNESCO Heritage Awards. They are recognition award for conservation. One has been given to the Golconda Fort, which is basically the Ibrahim Garden, in which the fort had a step well, which has been restored for watering the fort itself. And second is the Golconda Fort, has a very big arch, very distinct design in that regard, which took over. So this again is old news, in a way, old news. But let's see what happens vis-a-vis asking it. I hope you're understanding the purpose of this discussion. This has been there for the past 1 year. New things are emerging, which we will discuss when we'll have art and culture current affairs sessions. But right now, I'm giving it to you so that now this becomes static till some other state gets this award next time. Are you getting my point? I'm identifying for you areas which you need to pay attention to. I will come back and I will tell you these things, but you need to know these things for sure. Last but not the least is you asked me to show you geoglyphs. If you remember, you asked me what is geoglyph. You showed us petroglyphs. What is geoglyphs? These are the Ratnagiri rock geoglyphs. Now, one of you asked me, sir, what are geoglyphs? You see, these are things. There's a refinery which is coming up in Ratnagiri, which will basically destroy these. But the point of the matter is, these are called geoglyphs. They are carvings on the surface itself. This is a very interesting thing. This is a geoglyph. Petroglyph is painting. Who was the one who asked me to show you a geoglyph? I think Shushmita or Vivek, you said, what is a geoglyph? This is a geoglyph, which is making proper carvings on the rock on the surface itself. A petroglyph is when you paint on it. Now, last major current affairs, and then we'll discuss the main questions. G20. In the G20, there were multiple aspects which were shown about our culture. And they range from the Bharat Mandapam itself to the Lord Nataraja sculpture in the front of the Bharat Mandapam, to the Sun Temple Konark, to the Dokra art and Thanjavur painting. The point is, the Bharat Mandapam. Have I taught you what is a mandap? Have I taught you what is a mandap? In the larger context of our, yes, the exact same concept has been picked up here. Mandaps are congregational halls. So the design of this has been taken from temple architecture. This is the iconic Nataraja image. I showed you the Sun Temple Konark image and the Nalanda image. These are very important images now, and I have tried to emphasize on them whilst teaching you these areas. Nalanda, Sun Temple Konark, the concept of Mandapa and Nataraja image. These things represent our different types of cultures which was in G20. Again, this is a thing which we will develop further as we go on. So the current affairs aspect is done. So now basically we've covered the static, we covered current affairs. If you allow me, I would like to show you how to answer mains questions, and we can do practice a little bit of questions in the next 20-25 minutes. Yes. So in the morning, I told you I will bring you the book again in the end. And see, if I now go through the book, very simply, we have now covered Indian architecture, sculpture, pottery. We've covered paintings. We've covered UNESCO World Heritage Sites. We've covered handicrafts. The images of handicrafts is in the PPT itself. Indian music is done. Indian dance form is done. Indian theatre, puppetry is done. Martial arts is done. The Indian intangible culture heritage is done. Languages was something which was already unnecessary. Religion, not needed. Buddhism, Jainism covered, but do go through this chapter. We discussed literature, the relevant part. Education, we've done the ancient universities. Cinema, don't have to worry about. 6 schools of philosophy done. Science and technology, I will discuss with you just briefly. Calendar, festivals, all done. Awards and honors done. Law, culture, just random cultural institutions done. Coins done. And India through the eyes of foreign travelers, important chapter done. Culture abroad, not important for your preparation. So now, do you fear this book called Nitin Singhania? No? Generally, you're comfortable? Perfect. Great. So let's look at the questions which have come previously. Let's look at the mains questions. Okay. See, the latest questions had no art and culture question. We've already discussed the questions in the first session itself. Last year, there was a question, and these are trying to give you a certain type of taste, which is that discuss the main contribution of Gupta period and Chola period to Indian heritage and culture. Now, when I talk about Indian heritage and culture, and when we talk about the concept related to, for example, Gupta and Chola, now, can anybody tell me, will this question have the same answer for everybody, or everybody is going to write a different answer? Everybody is going to write a different answer. Because, no, everybody is going to write a different answer. Why? Because Gupta and Chola are big periods. Now, within 250 words, what aspect do you want to contribute or emphasize on is more important. So first, you will have the introduction, in which you give the historical context that why Gupta and Chola period are important, which is because they're periods of golden age of culture in that regard. Thereafter, in the body, you will divide the body into 2 parts, Gupta and Chola. In the first part, you don't make horizontal, but vertical division. Don't make what we call as vertical divisions, make horizontal divisions. Gupta, where all have we discussed Gupta when it comes to cultural contribution? Temple, sculpture, coins. We've discussed the aspect related to how the Gupta period is where the amalgamation of all things come through and coins represent that. Same, yes, literature, very good. Then comes Chola. Chola, again, you have to divide it into different parts. Temple, sculpture, coins, aspect related to what we call as painting. The point is, the answer to this question changes. Why? Because everybody is going to emphasize on different aspects. UPSC has started to do this, which is this large, very big categories in which it works. So it's not giving specific questions, it's giving big questions which have very big concepts. That is why I have done the syllabus in such a way that you are within these big categories than being in smaller categories. Understand this concept. Revivalism, Hinduism, religion, whatever you want to write, it is totally your call. Now, the next question which came in 2022, 3 questions were there. Discuss the significance of lion and bull figures in Indian mythology, art and architecture. Again, this question has no one right answer. You have to discuss, again, you have to discuss introduction, how different images have been used across Indian culture in that regard. Now you have to discuss where have we seen lion, where have we seen bull. So we've seen lion in mythological perspective related to Shakti. We have seen in the context of art and culture in Mauryan pillars. We have seen it in the context of what we call as temple architecture. It is represented in sculpture. Thereafter, bull, where have we seen, again, mythological reference, Nandi, which is Lord Shiva. And with Lord Shiva, we also see Mauryan reference, again post-Mauryan reference, the temple aspect. See, these questions don't have one answer. It is on your understanding. What is the takeaway of these two questions? The takeaway of these two questions is there is no one answer. Your conceptual clarity in spaces matter. The more conceptually you are clear, the better you will be able to write the answer. Factual knowledge is secondary. What really matters is how you apply your knowledge in that regard. And this is why these two questions play with that. Then I think this question anybody can answer from 2021. Evaluate the nature of Bhakti literature and its contribution in Indian culture. Bull is there in Mauryan architecture also, yes. Bhakti literature, Indian culture. Bhakti literature was devotional, challenged gendered notions, challenged the caste system, was about breaking institutional authority, was about changing the concept of devotion, personalization, individualization, whatever you want to write. It's 150 words. Is this question difficult after you've gone through Bhakti with me? Do you find this question difficult? The point is you already have the points. You just have to systematically place them. See, this was a very realistic question which could be asked again for Sufism also. So keep that type of understanding. Then, rock cut architecture represents one of the most important sources of our knowledge of early Indian art and history. Discuss. Now, this question is not asking about any specific thing, not about any specific concept. What it is asking about? Rock cut. Where have we seen rock cut architecture? We've seen it in the Mauryan period. We've seen it in caves. We've seen it at Mahabalipuram. We have seen it in temple. We have seen it in different aspects. And is rock cut architecture important? Yes, it is important. Rock cut architecture gives an insight into the Mauryan period, into the post-Mauryan period, about Buddhism, about Jainism, about religion, about Pallavas, about post-Mauryan, what we call as post-Gupta temple building. This question again is not about how you approach it. It's about what you want to write. What you want to write. Rock cut shows how everywhere there is internal amalgamation. From Ellora to Elephanta, and see, it's only 150 words. You can't give specific details. Again, have to approach it in a certain way. That is the point I'm trying to argue here. You have to approach it in a certain way where whatever I've taught you in these modules, you have to apply. It's about application of knowledge. It's not about factual knowledge. You will think that in mains they will ask you words, temple names. No, they ask conceptual questions. How can you apply it on the different aspects? Further, for example, Pala period is the most significant phase in history of Buddhism in India. Again, a very open-ended question. Now, what did Palas do? You have Pala Pothis, you have Pala architecture, you have Pala the concept of Abhata, the concept of how they revived Buddhism, how they kept Buddhism alive. We've discussed universities, very good, Nitin. We've discussed Odantpuri, we've discussed Jagdala, we've discussed Vikramshila. This question, is it difficult after how I approach the syllabus? Try to understand this. If you read that book, you will not be able to answer this question. We have worked under periods. And every thematic, I've gone through periods itself. And that is why it is easier to answer this question. Because if you will start to look in Nitin Singhania for an answer, won't find it. Nitin Singhania is prelims oriented. I have tried to give you as much as possible what we call as the concept of application. Revise with this in your mind. Revise with this in your mind that your understanding of this topic is important. This is why I'm doing this question. There, tell me, can't you answer this? This is the easiest question possible. Highlight the Central Asia and Greco-Bactrian elements in Gandhara art. I've given you a table about this. Half closed eyes, forehead lines, curly hair, draping, jewelry. Standard question. This is not difficult. It's a very standard question. These are the type of questions which do come. This is again an open-ended question which was about safeguarding Indian cultural heritage. Safeguarding the Indian art heritage is the need of the moment, which again I tried to inculcate in you, which is that India is vulnerable. Indian art is vulnerable. We are in a generation where it is very easy for destruction and vulnerability of our culture because we believe in certain types. Here again, totally your answer matters on how you want to protect our culture. So these small things really matter. Every discussion I've had with you in class, you have the recordings now. Try to watch the recordings with this perspective. It will help you. Assess the importance of Chinese and Arab travelers in reconstructing the history of India. Chinese, Fayan, Yun Sang, Itzing. Arab travelers, Al-Masudi, Al-Baruni, and Abdul Razak. They are important travelers because they give us alternative perspective, this, that. Governmental in culture institution is not important in these type of questions. You just have to apply yourself. 10 mark, 150 words. Nobody has the time to write details. I encourage you to write these answers. I will meet you again by the end of this year in another batch. If you're not able to, I will be taking the 8th November batch. If you're still not able to, I will make you write these answers. What I'm trying to tell you right now by looking at the mains questions, you will realize that these questions are not difficult. They are based on application of knowledge. That is what is the takeaway here. Conceptual clarity is important. All art and culture, all ancient medieval, throughout all the 7 batches I only take. So as we go forward, I keep on adding current affairs and you have to just keep it simple in that sense. There is nothing out of the box which is coming through. This was the bane of existence. I hope this is not the problem for you now. I hope it isn't. Which is that this book is for revision. It is not for learning. It is for revision. You have been with me for now close to a month and I hope the fear of art and culture is gone and you are capable enough of now answering any type of question. For anybody who still feels scared, revise. I promise to you that there will be no way that you will not be able to answer any of these questions. Any of these questions can be answered by basic revision. Yes? Perfect? Okay. Perfect. Great. Anything you want to ask me? There is standard way of approaching art and culture. 15-minute rule. Add it to your timetable. Don't have to worry. You can always email me on abhishek.mishra19@byju's.com. And before you leave, let's do one thing. Let's do certain questions, prelims, just to boost your confidence. And thereafter, we go for a break. You like to do questions? Let's do certain questions. Okay. This is 2023. In which one of the following regions was Dhanyakantaka, which flourished as a prominent Buddhist center under the Mahasangika located? Go through your idea of ancient and medieval and you know this answer. Come on, give me an answer. Come on. Some people have just randomly put in Satvahana chapter. One of the capitals of Satvahana was Dhanyakantaka. Andhra. Don't believe me? Go through the first slide of Satvahana's. and you'll find this answer there, which is which region is called a Ghanakantaka. Satavahanas were in the Andhra sector, the Deccan sector. Very easy to answer. Answer this. With reference to ancient India, consider the following. The concept of stupa is Buddhist in origin. The stupa was generally repository relics. Stupa was a votive and commemorative structure in Buddhist tradition. Votive means has a certain type of expression outside commemoration. Which of these statements are correct? And in this, there are two answers. There are two answers. I will have no issues. No issues. %. See, both B and C are correct. This is what the official key really matters. See, stupas are generally repositories of relics. That is totally fine point. Stupas commemorate Buddhist tradition. Totally correct point. Now, the first is the problem here. See, it can be B, it can be C both. You will find it both in different institutes. It will have different answers. The concept of Buddha, of stupa, is Buddhist in origin. This is correct and correct both. I told you that the Mount tradition of Buddha, of stupa, where does it come from? It can come from the Vedic period, also from Jain tradition also. But the concept of stupa as a structure is Buddhist in origin. So here, let's see which one does UPSC choose, B or C. Commemorative means celebrate. Get my point? Why B and C both can be an answer? The concept of stupa as a mount comes from Vedic period. But the concept of stupa as a structure is Buddhist in origin. So this is why sometimes UPSC gives terms which become a little bit problematic. You've done this question already. Then this question, Milindapana we already saw, Nagasena, and Devi Chandraguptam is not Bilhana, it is Vishakadatta. Go through your slides again. We discussed this. Vishakadatta has two texts, the Mudrakshara and Devi Chandraguptam. So in this, there were two pairs which were totally correctly matched. Yes, this is the last question I will do with you. Souls are not only the property of animals and plant life, but also of rocks, running water, many other natural objects not looked to us living by other religious sects. The above statement comes from which religion? I want everybody to give the right answer. And this is a very, very easy question. Very easy question. The concept of everything having a soul. Come on. Very easy question. Last question. After this, I give you the strategy and then I will leave you. Sorry for extending and taking 20 minutes, but why not? Perfect. 78%. Totally correct. Yes. Jainism is the one which basically is about soul and everything. This question came this year. Very, very easy. That is. Okay. So with this, I would like to end the session. We've gone through 10 modules of art and culture, current affairs plus all static portions itself. You want to see the leaderboard? I'll show you the leaderboard once. So you have Samhita as the one who's first. After that, everybody's got 1 or 2 questions incorrect for sure. So that is not an issue. This needs revision. What I want to say is before we leave, revise, not an issue. I will see you if you're doing world history tomorrow with world history in the evening. Other than that, as you go on in different batches, I'll keep on adding current affairs, but we have a specific session called Target Prelims for the current affairs aspect of art and culture, where I'll collate everything together. But other than that, generally, I just want to know did everything make sense or not. And as I said, the fear of art and culture and the fear of Nitin Singhania should have gone through your mind. It was a pleasure teaching you. Thank you so much. I will surely see you either in modern India or in ancient and medieval or in art and culture again if you want to revise with me. And remember, conceptual clarity is important. 15 minutes should learn 2-3 facts every day. It will not be a problem. An absolute pleasure teaching you. Very, very receptive that way. And don't give up. Keep on revising. Right? Thank you. Thank you. Take care. And as always, if there's any issue, be it optional or anything, can email me on abhishek.mishra19@byju's.com. Thank you. Bye-bye. And as I said, maybe I'll see you tomorrow. If not, modern India. If not, art and culture again. Thank you. Take care. Thank you for giving me these 20 minutes. Thank you. And use these PPTs as your learning modules. Everything is there. And other than that, you can just go through the Nitin Singhania for revision. Bye-bye.